The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.
Welcome back to another No Ifs, Ands, or Buts. He is Matt Butts. He's a divorce and a family law attorney, 948-4958, 948-4958, M. Butts Law. That's B-U-T-T-S law.net. And below me, we have a special guest, a good friend of mine. I've known him forever. He is the best when it comes to expertise in addiction. His name is Chad Olmstead. Chad, how you doing, brother? What's going on?
I'm doing fantastic, Tony. How are you, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. Two of my best buddies on the same podcast. This is going to be a blast. We tried to do this a couple of weeks ago, and we went like over an hour, so it was no problem coming up with content. So we'll see how this thing rolls today. But normally when we're talking about, and this show is about attorneys, or not so much about attorneys, but about going to court and divorce law. And so I want to start there. How often, Matthew, when you're doing cases, does addiction come into play when you're talking about a divorce?
You know, a fair amount. I mean, a fair amount. So there's drugs, narcotics, things of that nature. And there's also alcohol, which is a stronger monster than a lot of people want to give it credit for. And these substances people can become so dependent on these substances that it wrecks their marriage.
Yeah. And how often do you have a case where obviously someone maybe likes to imbibe a little bit too much on weekends, but it's not a wife beater, takes care of his kids, but all of a sudden she's making that a situation. She's making that the point of contention.
I mean, look, it really depends because, there are periodic alcoholics. There are alcoholics who don't drink every day. It's just that when they do drink, they cannot put it down. That's, that's what I was or what I am. I've been sober since March of 2024. And it's not that I drank every day, but when I did, man, I really tied one on. So sometimes it's that too. And then sometimes it is just having a couple beers on the weekend, and then they're looking for any little crack that they can find to get in and form an accusation.
Yeah. Chad, thanks again for coming onto the show. I heard an interesting thing this morning when we spoke last week. I'm hearing that deaths and overdoses are down by 30%. It was more deaths than overdoses, because then I heard again this morning, well, they're down a little bit because of Narcan, but we're still having the same number of overdoses. We're just catching it now. We have this Narcan. Is that true?
I haven't seen anything about that personally.
Okay. I thought that was interesting because this person was obviously saying we still have a major drug issue in this country, and I know,
absolutely, it's still terrible.
I know we do, but for people that say, "Hey, we turned the corner on this Lortab or this opiate situation, everything else," what is your expertise seen over the last say 12 months?
Well, I notice it seems like more people are going towards the Adderalls and meth and methamphetamines things. People are still, they don't really write it as much anymore. There used to be incentives to write opiates, and now those incentives have went away. There's more incentives to not write it, and they're switching to Suboxone and different derivatives of opiates that keep you out of withdrawal, cover those receptors. And a lot of people say it's trading one for the other, but I've seen people come in, on heroin or different things, and they got on Suboxone, and 2 weeks later they got a job and got their family back, and things were moving forward in a positive way.
Tell people
so you're not trading one for the other.
Tell people what Suboxone is.
It's buprenorphine and naloxone. Buprenorphine used to be called Temgesic back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And you remember the Haight-Ashbury days, back in San Francisco. Well, they noticed when the heroin addicts were out of heroin, they were buying the Temgesic from the grocery store and the pharmacies and stuff. So because it was taking them out of withdrawal. So they snatched it off the shelf, renamed it buprenorphine, and made it controlled. So because they know it works, but the naloxone, it keeps, if you take any opiates or any heroin or anything like that, it will not affect you whatsoever. So
what was the original intent of, what's the name of the medicine you said was in the 70s?
It's Temgesic.
What was the original intent of that medication?
Pain. It's the strongest pain medicine in the world.
Okay. And it was on the
it
shelf.
Really is. I mean, compared to what's out there.
It works as opposed to opiates that just mask it. It actually works.
Correct. It's all about the receptors. I mean, when your receptors, like even when you take like pain medicine, the pain doesn't go away. It's blocking that pain receptor, so you're not feeling the pain, but the pain's still there. All pain is inflammation. So if you get to the root of the problem, which is the inflammation, you can cure yourself without treating yourself or dumbing your brain with opiates and stuff.
For some reason, I feel like this is a little secret that a lot of people who are hooked on opiates, and I think a lot of those people are hooked on the prescription type. They got something, they broke an ankle or whatever, and next thing you know, they're stuck on it. And I can tell you, it's a really easy thing to get stuck on for a long period of time. Um, but why aren't more doctors prescribing Suboxone? And what are the drawbacks for that? Tell me some of the negative things that you can you get addicted to that as well?
Well, I had a patient tell me today that she had this wound on her foot and it wouldn't go away, so she didn't know what to do. So she went to a hospital, and the wound care doctor, once he asked her what medicine you want Suboxone. And him and the other doctor said, "Oh, you're one of those." Just
Yeah.
totally treat them. It's more of an ignorance. I wouldn't say they're stupid, but it's more of an ignorance. They haven't paid a lot of attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
But it really does help. I mean, I've seen it change lives. I really have.
Yeah.
I'm not promoting it at all. I think if you're on opiates, you should just quit. But if you can't quit, that is a good option.
Yeah.
Maybe you could taper from there.
Are there dangers from just quitting the opiates?
Well, if you've taken them for a long time, you can certain opiates you could go into seizure. It can have negative effects on your body because I had a couple of surgeries last year myself, and coming off the pain medicine was quite an ordeal. I just tapered. I went slowly tapered. I went down half a pill every 2 weeks, and I was sick and I was up, but completely. I quit completely. I quit, and the fifth day, I felt like I got run over by a truck. I literally couldn't get out of bed. And I mean, I'm 6'1", 220. I'm not a small person. I can move myself around, and I really couldn't move. It was
Wow.
awful. I was sick. It was
Talk,
bad.
talk
So
a
I
little bit.
understand.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the ADD medicine. And I don't want to call it
Well,
something
the
wrong because
problem I've seen with that, and it's a terrible problem. There's two free clinics in Birmingham, one on the east side, one on the west side. And used to, when people would come in, didn't have any money, any insurance, I would send them over there. They would, have psychiatrists that could see them.
Mhm.
Well, it's actually right after Joe Biden got elected. I still sending people over there, and they kept calling me back saying they won't see me. They won't see me. So I called over and I talked to the boss. And I said, "So what's going on?" He said, "Well, once they're 18, they don't qualify." I said, "So you take in all these kids, their parents don't know what to do with them. You get them hooked on amphetamines, and when they turn 18, you turn them out in the street, and they're our problem." And he hung up in my face.
Wow.
So that's what it is, and that's what they're doing, and it speeds up your brain, and it makes you a slave, in my opinion.
Yeah. No ifs,
That's
ands, or
really
buts.
it makes you.
Yeah.
It changes your thought process.
Yeah. The stigmatism is alive. 948-4958, 948-4958. It is Matt Butts, mbutslaw.net. At what point, obviously, you want your clients to tell you the truth. I think it's hilarious where clients come in and they don't tell you everything because they're trying to hoodwink you, and it's not like it's something you
It
hadn't seen before. It's
happens.
like, for God's sakes, I've seen it all. Tell me the truth, so at least I can help you. I can work around this.
Yeah.
But if someone does come in and they do have a hard time stop drinking, or they're doing something perhaps they shouldn't be doing, an illicit drug or something, how proactive are you, knowing that it's going to take 6, 7, 8, 9 months, maybe a couple of years for a court case to come to fruition and everything else? If you can't somehow mediate out of that, do you directly tell them, "Hey, listen, start drug testing yourself," or how do you go about that?
What I do is when the subject of alcohol comes up, or when I say, "What type of allegations are they going to make about you?" And he says, or she says, "They're going to say I'm an alcoholic." Okay, well, do you think you might have a problem with alcohol? No, no, no. Well, how much do you drink? Well, I drink this much. I said, "I'll tell you what. Since you don't have a problem with it, I think it's best for you to put it down for the remainder of this case."
Mhm.
And I think that's a good idea for anybody. That's advice that I would give to a non-alcoholic. If it's going to be a really, really contentious case and alcohol is already being alleged against you, just don't. It's best that you don't. And then at my next meeting with that client, I'm going to ask if they have drank alcohol since our last meeting, and if the answer is yes, we start moving in another direction.
All right. Does it make a difference what type of drug it is? I heard something again on marijuana today where they're wanting to clarify it as a lesser evil than ever, and because of this, it's going to make it so much more easier on the medical marijuana industry to thrive. What is the courts uh, see in marijuana? How do they look at that? And then I want you to talk about the drug courts a little bit down there in Montgomery.
Okay, I don't spend a lot of time in Montgomery,
Yeah.
but
Well, no one wants to. I got news for you. Yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty true.
Uh,
Neither do I.
well, so look, I have to start by saying that today, marijuana is not legal in the state of Alabama. There are laws against it, and there is some legislation just being discussed and going through about some medical marijuana, but as of today, recreational is just not on the table. Um, that being said, I mean, it really depends, and it can vary from judge to judge. Some judges may see it as the gateway drug that's going to make it inevitable that you are going to have a wrecked life. And if that's the case, then you need to treat it the same way you're going to treat heroin or anything else. However, if another judge sees it as it's marijuana, thank God it wasn't fentanyl type thing. I mean, it just really depends on that person's viewpoint on marijuana, and those viewpoints range. Now, the court's always going to uphold the law. They're never going to say, "Oh, it was just marijuana, case dismissed." That's not. I mean, I haven't seen that happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, are they going to damn you to the lowest portion of prison hell for smoking a joint or being in possession of a joint? I don't think that's the case either.
What does a judge think when a person is asked, "Has your children ever seen you drunk before?" And they answer yes.
I mean, look, you always want to answer honestly to a judge. And I don't equate getting drunk with being an alcoholic. There's all sorts of things that could happen. You could be at a New Year's party, have too many. If it's all the time,
Yeah.
that becomes an issue. But if it's once and most people were drinking there and it was kind of a social it really varies case by case. I mean, you don't want them to see you sitting at home drunk on the couch. I mean, y'all need to be at like a New Year's party or something. But yeah, answer honestly, but context matters.
Yeah. He is Matt Butts. He's fantastic. Divorce and family law guy, 948-4958. Chad Olmsted is an addict expert. I've known him for years and years and years. And we're going to tie these two together in a nice little bow by the time we're getting finished with the show. No ifs, ands, or buts here. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. And if you have any email questions or any questions about the show or you want to get on, certainly feel free to check it out. Fentanyl. It's all I heard about forever, Chad. It's fentanyl, fentanyl, fentanyl. I heard we were doing tariffs because of fentanyl. I heard fentanyl's coming in from Canada. It's just like, and I know it's some nasty stuff out there, and you couldn't pay me enough to touch anything that comes off the street because you just don't know what you're going to get anymore. Has it slowed down a little bit? It seems like I'm not hearing anything about fentanyl anymore.
Usually, if I see a patient that comes in on fentanyl and they don't get off fentanyl, they're gone pretty quickly. It is a problem. I mean, they come in on it, and then I don't see them again. So that's usually what happens, or they just keep doing it. And usually
And the question would be, yeah, the question would be if why would I want to kill my customers? And I always say it's because the line for the customers never ends. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like they don't care. I mean, drug dealers don't care if their best customer offs themselves on it because they know there's somebody that's going to take their place in line. And
it seems that way.
yeah. And that's really unfortunate. What is the best? Well, let me ask you this. And I know there's a lot of things online. How many people do you believe get their illicit drugs on the internet? And how easy is it to do that?
I've only heard of a couple of people actually successfully getting things off the internet, and it was just benzoids and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, I have no, I don't, I mean, I haven't, nobody ever tells me things like that.
Yeah.
So
No, I was just curious. I mean, I know that I've heard, the dark web is a place you can go there, but I also hear once you get in the dark web, it's hard to get out too. And that's probably a different animal altogether. Um, Matt, when you come down to doing a case and you have both parents who seem like they may have an issue drinking, you have one parent. Obviously, if you're going to say you drink too much, then the person's going to come at you. Well, you drink just as much as I did because they got pictures of each other and they're just banging each other in the head. What does a judge normally do when they see something like that? Is it a cancellation when something like that happens? Do they both get scolded and then? Do you ever have a situation where perhaps if there's kids involved, they need to get their own lawyer then?
You know, you never want to find yourself in court trying to prove who is the worst drug addict or who is the worst alcoholic,
Yeah.
you know, ever.
Yeah.
But, when it's that type of thing, you become the floodgate that holds back DHR, or as they call it in some places, CPS. And it really becomes an issue. I make sure that I press that point as hard as I can that okay, it's the substance or your kids. You should probably pick one, but if both are doing it, then most of the time neither one of them don't want to really say anything about it, and then they just want to kind of both sweep it under the rug. But if it does arise to the level of who drank more beer at whatever time, um, it just becomes ridiculous. I never really advised that argument.
As an attorney, is it your right, or do you feel like it's your responsibility to report something to DHR if it doesn't seem right, despite the fact that you are
Sometimes,
taking care of a? I would, yeah, I think that would be really difficult to do.
not against my own client. And I have maybe personally myself called DHR
Yeah,
once in the practice of law. I've had to advise some clients to do it before. It's not a decision I make lightly, and it's not something I have done often. Um, uh, but every once in a while, a situation will arise to that level, and it's like, okay, DHR needs to be involved here. But there's a lot that can be done through the domestic relations courts too, and DHR is not always required. Thank God, most of the time they are not. But for me, it's got to be pretty bad for that to
yeah.
happen. And the one case that I called on was pretty bad.
When that toothpaste comes out of the tube, it's really hard to stick back in it when it comes to a
Oh,
DHR
it never
situation.
goes back in ever,
Yeah.
ever, ever.
No, it really doesn't. Chad, we talked previously about some of the stuff that's sold at 7-Elevens and some of these stores. When I walk in, and I guess it depends on what side of town you're on. I got a couple friends of mine own like a Shell station, but it's a nice part of town, and so they don't really sell all these, hubbubs and little pink things and bombs, and I mean, there's so many different names for all this different crap. These alcohol bombs and the alpha fives and the beta sixes and all this other stuff.
The whippets and the
The
zippets and the
the whippets
snappers.
and
Mad
zippets and
Dog.
snappers. Yeah. I mean, it's just. I mean, and it's just like it's like walking into a fireworks super show or something like that. And I mean, there's something for everybody, right? It's just crazy. How illicit is that stuff? How does it get on its shelves? Why do we still have that stuff on its shelves? And how dangerous is it?
well, it's kind of the same point you made about drug dealers. They try to get it to kids and get it in them quick, get them used to doing it, and make it a habit. And then they turn 18, 21, whatever. Then they're alcoholics, and that's what they want. That seems like those energy drinks are some of the worst things, though. We have the drug cups at work, and we bought one of these and poured them in there, and they came up. One of them had benzos in it. One of them actually had buprenorphine in it, and cocaine. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in those things. Meth.
Wow.
One of them showed up amphetamines, but each one had something different. They were all bad. There was no with something.
Energy drinks
Each one
from the
had something.
cooler
Yeah,
at a
Red Bull,
convenience
the
store.
Monster,
So something else that's kind of gets on my nerves, and I know as an adult, you see all these whammer, slammers, whippers, hoopers, all these things. You get 7-Elevens. There's little purple things and pink things, and yeah, it does look like they're just marketing all towards kids. Although it does catch my eye, and it's right there up front. I know people that got on Beta 6 and Alpha 9, and it's got numbers to it, and there's basically a pill or a powder for everything. If you're sad, take this. If you're tired, take this. If you want to wake up, you take that. And it's like there's something for every mood. Why is that stuff on shelves? How does it get on shelves? And how dangerous is that stuff?
It's more of the point you were making earlier about the drug dealers. It's kind of like they want them to get hooked when they're kids, get them used to doing it, make it a habit in their life, and then when they get older, they become addicts. It's the same with anything, but like the energy drinks seem to be one of the worst things. So we poured them in some urine cups one day, and they all showed like different, amphetamines, benzos, buprenorphine. It was just they were all different, but it's because we had people come in and we knew they wasn't taking certain things, and it would show up in their urine. So sometimes we would send it off, and they couldn't figure out what it was, but it's usually something. And I always ask them, if it's something odd, do you drink energy drinks? And they're like, yeah, I just pounded 3 this morning. I drink them all day long. And it's just like, I'll tell them, about the cups and everything, not to drink them. But
Wow.
it seems to be that's their fix when they can't get their other stuff.
And you're talking, you're talking name brand stuff, right? You're talking
name brand stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everything you see in the store that has energy drinks or has anything to do with that usually has some kind of amphetamine derivative in it.
The
crazy.
Attorney is advising you to say no names.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, if you know name brands, well, that's scary enough right there. I mean, but yeah, everyone's trying to do something so they can feel different than the way they're supposed to feel, I guess. I mean, I don't know what else to put it. Vaping. I know the last time we talked, you had some really scary crap on vaping, man. Tell me what's going on with vaping and why it's such a bad thing.
Yeah, vaping is. You can look up crack lung at Google, and it's almost the same thing. Because when you inhale, it comes in one lung, goes through the other, and you exhale. But when you have pneumonia or something like that, and you're looking at the left side, because that's where the air comes in first, and it's always it looks like a tree branch sticking out. I mean, and you tell them, you show it to them, and they're just like, I'm not smoking cigarettes anymore. It's like, yeah, but. I mean, either way, vaping seems to be worse. In science, it's worse for you. They're both terrible, but vaping's a lot worse medically.
And it's amazing because I get tobacco because there's so many things and so much money tied to tobaccos. We were talking about the Kentucky Derby a few minutes ago. It's all Kentucky is tobacco fields when you drive up there. Yeah. And I understand how money's got to be made. But vaping, that sounds like... And I guess that's why they keep shutting down these vaping things, and like a week later, those shelves are stocked with the stuff all over again, just to maybe a derivative or a small little formula of what it was in the past. That's kind of crazy. All right, Matt Butts, mbutslaw.net, mbutslaw.net, 948-4958, 948-4958. You had mentioned earlier, Matt, about alcohol and drugs in a marriage. We hope we don't see it. Talk about how it changes then when there are children involved, because that takes it up a notch.
It does, because, generally in a marriage, you have everybody kind of does something. If you have an alcoholic in the marriage, then usually one party does a lot more than the other. And then once the marriage starts to split up, can this alcoholic who never really has cared for these kids care for these kids?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a question that you hope is never asked in your case, but if it is, then it's a pretty tough question.
Yeah, I can certainly see that. mbutslaw.net, mbutslaw.net, 948-4958. Listen, we're getting kind of a bad connection, but I want to thank you guys for coming on. We got a show out of this bad boy, which is good. Chad Olmstead, thank you so much for everything you do. I know I've known your heart. I've known you for a long period of time. And, of course, Matt, our relationship's going to go on forever, man. I greatly appreciate all you guys do, man. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. We'll do an episode next week again right here on Tony Curry Radio. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.